Paracon Publishing presents Day 9, a Postpartum Depression Memoir, written by Munday, and narrated by the author. To Fiona, I am strong because of you. A note to you, reader. This book is triggering. I'm of two minds as I describe the book to you. One wants to push forward and the other wants to protect. On pushing forward, if we don't start an open conversation about mental health, those who are sick will continue to ache in the dark, unable to communicate their symptoms for fear of judgment at best and loss of personal freedom, or death at worst. Studies have shown that talking about suicide does not cause those who are depressed to consider ending their own lives. Rather, it can help normalize their feelings and save lives. It's only through an honest conversation about mental health that we can identify which thoughts are fleeting and which could be a signal that illness is looming. For that reason, I want to offer some advanced protection. I hope that you will take care as you progress through my story. It includes vivid descriptions of mental illness, of suicidal ideation. This account also includes details of self-inflicted death. Transparency is important, and so is safety and wellness. There is one spoiler that's worth handing over now, the one of my recovery. I didn't know exactly what was wrong, how it began, when it would end, or whether it would return. But I did feel better when I was able to say out loud what was rumbling through my mind. When I could identify that I'd changed from regular me to not quite well me, and ask others to carry me on from that point. With that in mind, if you're struggling, I hope you'll find the words to identify when you're not quite well, and trust that if you reach out, others will carry you through. Don't stop if the first person you share your thoughts with downplays what you're saying. Keep saying it out loud. It's not on you to fix your illness alone. We wouldn't demand an unskilled self-treatment for any other type of illness. If this book triggers you, or you feel unwell before you begin, give yourself permission to place those thoughts in someone else's hands. Your thoughts do not define you. It will not be this way forever. Be well, Amanda. Part 1. Birth. June 16th, 2014. For as long as I can remember, I always imagined that I'd be a good mother. I would picture myself in a rocking chair, swaying slowly while I hummed a tune over my baby's forehead. The breeze from the summer air would be soft. My sense of purpose alive and well-defined. As a mother, I knew I'd feel at peace because motherhood is something I was destined to embody and to thrive in. Today I'm 9 months pregnant with my first child, and I do not feel the euphoria I deliberately anticipated. I toss and turn throughout the night, cramming a stiff body pillow between my legs and under my huge belly, seeking any position that might give me enough relief to sleep for a couple of hours. I ignore the bladder pangs because when I get up to waddle to the bathroom, no more than a piddle trickles out, which is fairly anticlimactic after rushing out of bed, afraid that I'm about to pee my pants. This morning started earlier than ever. I've been half awake for the last 2 hours, before the sun even, not wanting to sit all the way up and kickstart the familiar heartburn meets nausea feeling that greets my morning routine. Gordon and I are still in bed when my cell phone rings, startling me awake. It is 8 a.m. on a light and bright June day. My hopeful, almost summer feeling is dashed away when I realize the person on the other end of this call is my midwife calling in a panic. Can you get down here to the hospital in the next hour? Dr. Schuyler is here and she can try to see if we can get the baby moving. This is your opportunity to try vaginal delivery. Hurry up. I'm on the 15th floor. Meet me in triage. The first decision I made when I was pregnant was to put my tiny fleck of a fetus on a daycare list because I had been warned that in Toronto the wait would be years long and I was keen to return to work as soon as possible after giving birth. The second choice I made, with my husband Gordon, was to have a midwife as our primary care provider instead of an obstetrician at the hospital. It wasn't difficult to decide to use a midwife. It fits well within our liberal-leaning, sometimes snobby, organic, values-driven lifestyle. As a couple, Gordon and I share a passion for urban gardening. We seek out local food and suppliers. We shop with small businesses rather than big corporations, and we opt for vacations in wine country at the nearby Niagara-on-the-Lake over all-inclusive beach resorts. the idea of deeply personalized care with as little institutional medical intervention as possible in our childbirth plan aligned well with our core values as a couple. I also loved the idea of a medical professional coming into our home right after I gave birth, and in the 2 weeks afterward, versus having to pack up and go to a hospital with a newborn. I have many ideas for how this baby will be raised. When debating whether this was the right decision, I'd think, who would want to go to the hospital when you can stay in bed in your pajamas right after giving birth? My plan was locked in before I told any family members I was pregnant. My midwife, Rose, is a beautiful woman who defies the midwife archetype. Her tall, thin frame, with hair the color of kitchen twine, complements the high-end A-line dresses and silver Tiffany & Co. bracelets that she shows up to work in, actively rejecting the image one typically associates with midwifery or vaginal exams. I remember wondering in our early meetings, where's the hippie who's going to encourage an orgasmic delivery while I float in a birthing pool in my living room? Did I sign up for the wrong program? In one of our first monthly appointments, I sat up after the physical exam, pulling up the thick blue elastic on my maternity jeans. Feeling a bit embarrassed about my outfit choice, I sheepishly said, I'm wearing these because it's cold out, not because I really need these stretchy pants already. Rose smirked but didn't laugh, and I instantly worried she thought I was ridiculous. Then I asked, when do you think I should start prenatal classes? I mean, I know I'm just 5 months pregnant, but taking them early means I could get in more than one class if I wanted, right? Rose chuckled with the kind of laugh that tells you she's going to tell this story later around the lunch table. Whenever I asked that type of planning too far ahead question, she'd look down at her designer watch and not answer. I took it as an implication that she was late for the next neurotic mother-to-be and moved on. I've also felt her apparent boredom with my case throughout this uneventful pregnancy, and I still desperately want her approval. Looking for attention is my natural state. I imagine her complaining about me to her colleagues. Another young, white, privileged woman in her 30s opting for a natural birth because that's the go-to trendy labor approach for the millennial parent generation. She had mentioned not too subtly more than once that her midwifery practice serves low-income single mothers who have difficulty securing a spot because of all the women who want an intervention-free delivery. I made an early connection with a student who interned with Rose. She was at my first appointment, where she took long notes about my medical history. As she wrote, I noticed a vertical scar on the inside of her wrist. I didn't ask her about it. That felt too intrusive. But I noted that she'd probably seen some dark things. I wasn't worried that things could get dark with me, but I felt comforted by her experience and presence either way. I was disappointed when her internship ended a month before my due date. Rose, on the other hand, often breezes through our appointments with ease. She doesn't take the same level of notes that the intern did. She never needs to. She always utters, in her thick British accent, Amanda, everything you are feeling is normal. You have yet to ask me a single question that makes me worry about this birth. I'd show up to each appointment with a list of questions on my iPhone, to which she'd giggle and say, that symptom is very normal, my dear. Not unusual at all. I felt that I needed to complain about my nausea and inquire about my cramping to ensure baby would arrive safely, but I'm not sure she saw things the same way. I never asked her, though. What made me feel better about my slew of questions was that no matter how outrageous of a birthing scenario I'd throw her way, or her student intern's way, no one ever conceded that my fears were legitimate, but they also never said outright that I was being ridiculous. Rose is a superstar professional. That much is clear in everything she does, even the bored glances. On the day I arrived to hear the baby's heartbeat, she told me that she wouldn't consider pulling out the Doppler machine, explaining calmly that too many sound waves early in pregnancy can disturb the fetus. Instead, she used her trusted stethoscope to find the heartbeat just by listening to my abdomen. Can't be that simple, I thought, staring at her in amazement. A minute later, her stethoscope earpiece was in my ears, and she encouraged me to listen for the rapid-fire heartbeat. I heard it. She was right. It was that easy. My baby's heartbeat was even faster than she said it would be. It sounded like the hooves of a racehorse galloping to the finish line. I never doubted her again. I took her lack of concern and easy attitude in our appointments to be a signal that baby was safe, despite some lingering worry that the baby could pop out with 3 hands. I forget who it was who first told me birth is not a medical event, but that's my first thought this morning when Rose urges me to get to the hospital before this Dr. Schuyler gets called into another emergency delivery. I don't even know who Dr. Schuyler is or why she's important to my birth plan. Rose sounds confident in her, so I should be confident in her, but it's not what we planned. When I hang up the phone, I'm overcome with those panicky, erratic thoughts that are annoyingly depicted in films with birthing scenes. Since Rose always dismissed most of my prenatal questions as inconsequential, I didn't truly feel nervous before, even when our natural birth plans went out the window 10 days ago, as the baby failed to rotate itself out of breech position. But yesterday I thought I was having a scheduled cesarean section, and now we're supposed to rush to the hospital to meet a new doctor who can get this baby out without surgery? Without that degree of medical intervention, the way we once intended our birthing experience to be? I sometimes feel guilty for having tried to avoid the hospital route, and even guiltier for how far the plan has strayed from the natural, medication-free delivery Gordon and I had originally planned. But now we're in no-plan land, not a place I like to be. I guess this is it. I'm going to have a baby today. Gordon and I shake ourselves awake, splash water on our faces, and rush downstairs to grab the hospital bag, which is packed and ready because we were scheduled for a C-section on Wednesday. This Monday was supposed to be like any other. I can barely discuss my feelings with my husband because I'm so focused on getting to the hospital as quickly as possible. This is unusual because Gordon and I have spent the last 10 years analyzing every event, talking about our feelings and thanking one another for being each other's primary support person through difficult trials. I use his analysis of an experience to decide how inflamed I want to be about it. He is overly rational. I am overly emotional. When we're together, it's a decent balance of both. If I wasn't feeling so panicked in this moment, I might say, "This is really scary. I don't know what's coming next." But I can't, because I can't say anything at all. I'm paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. My 39 weeks pregnant self climbs into the passenger seat of the car and we head to the hospital in the center of downtown Toronto. I look at Gordon and hold his hand as he leans into the stop-and-go traffic. We're stuck in the morning commuter rush, but we're distracted by the new birth plan, so neither of us complains. Very unusual for Torontonians. My phone rings again. It's Rose wanting to know what's taking us so long to get to the hospital. 30 minutes ago, I was wrapped around a body pillow listening to the birds chirping outside my bedroom window. Birth is not a medical event, but it sure feels like an emergency right now. When the phone rings for the 3rd time, with Rose again demanding to know what's taking so long, I tense up, feeling like we're failing our idyllic mother figure. Rose is offering a solution to my anticipated birthing challenges, and if we don't hurry up and get to the hospital, we'll miss the opportunity for that natural, blissful birth experience. "Why aren't we there yet?" I snap at Gordon. "What's taking so long? We need to get there now." I'm not sure why I'm being cruel to this man who has never wavered in his support of me despite the constant changes to our pregnancy plans. Vaginal breech deliveries are rare in Toronto. According to my midwife, there is only currently one doctor in the city willing to perform a vaginal breech delivery, and she is ready to examine me first thing this morning because my non-hippie British midwife worked her professional connections to secure us an atypical meeting. Any fear that I might have had that Rose was annoyed with me is washed away with pure admiration for her problem-solving skills. She is my kind of action-oriented woman. Breech means the fetus hasn't rotated head down to face the cervix and vaginal canal. My baby has been in this breech position, head up and feet down, for weeks. There's been some speculation that its head is somehow wedged under my rib cage. But it was only after I crossed the 37-week mark that we started to discuss alternative ways of getting the baby out, on the assumption that vaginal delivery was no longer an option. Breech presentations occur in 3 to 4% of pregnant women who reach full term, 40 weeks. That translates to approximately 11,000 to 14,500 breech deliveries a year in Canada. In a 2009 study of Canadian breech pregnancies, only 0.6% of women planning a cesarean eventually delivered vaginally. My birthing plan has flipped backwards in more ways than one. We step out of the car in front of the hospital and, as Gordon helps lift me from my seat to a standing position, I ask, "Is induction and vaginal breech delivery safe? Are we doing the right thing rushing into the hospital like this?" "I'm nervous, babe. This isn't how we thought today was going to go. Also, I'm supposed to be working later. This wasn't what was supposed to happen today." Gordon looks serious but kind when he responds. "The baby comes first. You do so much work for other people, and now you need to do the work for the baby. Rose wouldn't have brought us to the hospital if she didn't think you could do it. We're here now. Let's go see what's up." He grabs my hand and we walk into the hospital together. Every Monday night since my 3rd trimester began, I have gone through the same ritual. Run a warm bath, listen to a mindfulness audio track, read a chapter or 2 of a hypnobirthing textbook, and yell future parenting philosophies down at Gordon from our bathroom. For months, I've pleaded with him to study hypnobirthing and meditation and intervention-free labor approaches. He dutifully attended all the classes, but stopped short of doing the class homework. I'd never skip the homework. Even with all the early baby prep and planning, I'm trying to remind myself to be ready to abandon it all in the name of pain management. It's hard. I'd rather stick to my plan, whatever my plan is now. Through all of my planning, I never once worked through a rushed vaginal breech delivery attempt days before a scheduled C-section. I'm frantically looking around the hospital lobby for information about the labor and delivery floor, genuinely confused about where to go because we opted out of a hospital tour. We opted out of almost all medical intervention training and preparation because after reading Ina May Gaskin's childbirth stories and watching Ricky Lake's documentary, The Business of Being Born, Gordon and I convinced ourselves we wouldn't be one of those families, caught up in the medical system if we didn't need to be. We are in the medical system now, whether I want to be or not. The doors open to the 15th floor. Rose greets us in the hallway, then runs me into triage like I'm bleeding to death. My adrenaline spikes. Dr. Schuyler appears in front of us not 5 minutes later, a stout woman with thick black metal eyeglasses and short, spiky hair that matches her sharp tone. She instantly straps a heart monitor on my belly and sets up the ultrasound equipment with very little fanfare. She barely says hello, only, "This will work only if the baby is in the exact position and if your cervix has effaced enough that the vaginal delivery is a possibility. I don't want you to get your hopes up." I look to Gordon, who looks a little dazed. How did we get here? What does she mean by "this will work"? The latex glove snaps, and within seconds, Dr. Schuyler's hands are inside me. She says, "Yep, looks like you're going to have a baby soon. Let's do the stretch and sweep." Is she asking me for permission? Doesn't sound like she's asking me for permission. Isn't this exactly what Gordon and I feared would happen? That doctors would take control of my birth story and I'd be left to follow along? I haven't the faintest idea what a stretch and sweep is, but I find out really quickly when this new doctor's hand suddenly puts pressure on my cervix. I look over to my engineer husband, who is standing at the foot of his bed, checking his phone with a worried look on his face. I know he's looking up stretch and sweep. I wish we could pause for a moment and have someone, anyone, explain what is going on with this baby. I don't feel happy or calm. I feel worry. The lights in this triage area are bright. I hear a woman scream, maybe a few rooms over from where we are. I'm so focused on the uncomfortable, contraction-inducing procedure happening between my legs that I haven't taken much time to reflect on where I am. I'm on the labor and delivery ward of a hospital, preparing to deliver my first child. There are women in serious pain here, I realize. What's next for me? Dr. Schuyler has 2 fingers inside my vagina, and she pushes with force that is sharp but direct. And now I understand the use of the word stretch. The sweep in this procedure, however, is unfairly named. When I think of sweeping, I think light, airy, floating. 2 strong fingers pushing against my internal organs couldn't be further from floating. Or painless. This hurts like hell, so I let out a low moan. Rose tells me not to pull away from the pain. Breathe, Amanda. Breathe. I'm annoyed that she isn't concerned about my discomfort. I wish she would walk over here and hold my hand. I also wish Gordon could understand how uncomfortable this is. He seems more concerned with his phone than my cervix. The procedure is over and the heart monitor comes off. Dr. Schuyler tells me to stand up and head to the washroom to put on a pair of postpartum underwear. Postpartum underwear is made of thin, white bandage mesh that reminds me of the membrane they wrap around raw meat. Cow fat? What a strange way to stir up a baby and then strap my body parts into place. I feel crampy. I'm also worried because I'm supposed to do some work today. There are voices of panic swirling around in my head, concerned by all this medical attention. Something could go wrong. You could die today. It's unusual for me to have thoughts like this. It's unusual for me not to trust my own thinking as anything other than logical and fair. I've barely spent any time in a hospital and always considered myself lucky for not needing medication to deal with my occasional anxiety. I normally feel pretty stable, able to look at anxious thoughts as separate from reality. This morning the thoughts seem more present, more real, not detachable. I need to be on a work call by 12 p.m. Now that the stretch and sweep induction act is complete, I pull up the call fat underwear and ask, "Can we go home now?" Dr. Schuyler asks Gordon and me to return to our office tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. If you haven't had a baby by then. She'll do another stretch and sweep if we need to. I'll be prepared for this next time, I think. Gordon decides to take me home and head off to work himself. He'll work the first half of the week at his tech startup, as planned. He's scheduled to begin paternity leave in 2 days, so if I can hold off on delivering a baby until then, it'll give him some time to wrap up a project he's in the middle of. He doesn't seem overly concerned that I'm going to have a baby today, and I want to follow his lead and go back to thinking about my own work projects. Anxiety tries to creep in. I push it away. In my bathroom, I notice that I'm bleeding. That's a lot of blood for a pregnant woman. It's been more than 9 months since I've had my period, the longest I've gone without bleeding monthly since I was 11 years old. I vividly remember when I got my first period. I told my mother that I wanted to get pregnant right then and there so I could have relief from the blood and cramps. I'll never forget her response. "You don't want to get pregnant because after you have the baby, you're going to bleed for 6 straight months." Am I going to bleed for 6 consecutive months? Will these cramps be with me for just as long? It's June 16th. That would have me bleeding heavily until after Christmas. The bleeding is jarring, but the cramps have faded, so I decide to return to my planned work, which might be a good distraction. I told my digital marketing clients that I would finish weeks ago, but my constant need to please has me agreeing to show up for conference calls when I'm supposed to have already begun this maternity leave. I've done more stressful work tasks than this. It won't take much time at all, I tell myself. And I don't have to mention the contractions. I need to continue to be viewed as a top-performing employee. I send Gordon a text update. I'm feeling contractions and there's blood. It's probably okay. I'm not in a lot of pain. My husband is the one you want there for you in a crisis. One of the things I disliked about him when we started dating in university was his stoic lack of emotion. But that rational being is now what grounds me in times of stress. I look to him for stability and evaluate his reaction before leveling up my own panic. In a crisis, Gordon finds the most logical explanation, approaching my concerns with as much rational sense as he can muster. At times, I long for him to yell at me, to respond to my emotional outbursts with some demonstrated passion. I've been known to say outrageous things just to elicit an emotional response from him, though it rarely works. He remains calm and judicious in almost every scenario. I want to let Gordon own this labor and give myself over to his lead. As I'm working on my emails, my phone beeps, and my heart flutters a bit when I read the text from him. I'm coming home. I feel useless at work. Let's do this. An hour after my text, Gordon walks in the door, convinced that contractions means baby. He looks exuberant, with bright eyes and a warm smile. He walks over to me, lifts me up to a hug, and says, "We're having a baby today? Maybe?" I giggle and he laughs. He smells deliciously salty from this early summer heat. "Why don't we go for a walk and shake that baby around a bit?" he says. "That's probably the easiest way to get the baby out." Yes? He's full of silliness this afternoon, a lot less worried than he seemed this morning. I don't sense any nervousness from him, which is good because my worry is growing. "A walk sounds great," I say. "I'm not getting anything done here anyway. Looks like that call was my last for a while." The natural, intimate birth we planned is in sight again, and I want every part of this to be a quiet experience for him and me. I want to smell him, touch his hair, have him rub his hands over my bulging belly. I want him to feel the tightening contractions with me. I want us to do this together. As we walk to the park, we chat about how devastated I've been for the last week since Rose told me we'd be having a cesarean delivery instead of a vaginal birth. It's not that I'm morally against the C-section or have any strong feelings one way or another about vaginal versus surgical birth, but I'm upset that we've been so far off plan. I hate being off plan. I should probably be thinking about the baby's arrival or the imminent pain, but all that's running through my mind is the amazing shared experience that my husband and I are about to have, and how great it is that our original birth plan could be back on track. I'm in love with my husband. I love his dark hair and his brown eyes and his tall presence. I really want to make this birth a positive experience for him. We were told that because of the baby's breech position, I'd be heading into surgery this week. Instead, we're back to thinking about labor breathing and pushing and meditative pain management. We are back to our original organic delivery plan. And yet, as relieved as I am that we can carry out the delivery we imagined, I feel a deep unease about the shifting circumstances. June 17th, 2014. Today could be our birthday. I couldn't sleep last night, so I'm awake and raring to go when the alarm goes off at 7 a.m. This time as we head to the hospital, I'm feeling a lot more calm about our commute, though we take the same congested route we did yesterday. We head up the elevator to find many very pregnant birthers sitting in Dr. Schuyler's waiting room. My name is called. The doctor performs a second, mercifully less painful stretch and sweep on me, and then announces, "This baby will be here by 6 p.m. Her tone makes her sound so confident, like this is more fact than prediction. I hop off the examination table and get dressed. Gordon suggests we try to have an early lunch. Let's get ramen noodles since we're downtown. I know a great place. We have until 6 before the baby shows up, right? That sounds lovely. I'd love a lunch date with you, says me, the twice internally swept, 39 weeks pregnant, officially in labor, mother-to-be. I smile and wrap an arm around his waist. As we head out of the building, I notice a few other pregnant women heading into their Dr. Schuyler appointments. They're dressed professionally, like headed to work after their checkups. Today isn't about their baby. It's about mine, I think. I'm having a baby by 6 p.m. today. The energy swirling around me this morning is nervous excitement, happy anxiety, curiosity. It's that same feeling you get when you skip out early from high school to make out with your love in the back parking lot. It could be great, and it could all fall apart. I've decided not to send a message to any of my family members because I selfishly want this experience to be for our marriage alone. It is unusual for me not to at least send a quick text to my brother, Max, the person I too often joke is more important to me than my husband. But I know he'll worry about me, and he doesn't thrive in ambiguous situations. It's 10 a.m. on Tuesday. We walk through the nearby mall, then go outside to Nathan Phillips Square, where we sit down on a bench in front of a big water fountain. The few people wandering around appear to be jet-lagged tourists. We watch a few of them take selfies in front of City Hall while pigeons circle around an older woman eating a bagel. I look up to the bright blue sky, grateful for the delicious breeze. The sun on my face feels nice. It really is a beautiful day. In this moment, I'm not checking my cell phone, looking at unread emails, or posting to Facebook or Twitter. I'm simply a very pregnant person sitting on a bench beside my husband, thinking about how warm and sunny it is outside. Gordon pulls out his phone and launches an app to begin timing my contractions. He's looking around in a distracted way that tells me he has a lot running through his mind. His calm demeanor is replaced with tension that lingers at the end of every sentence. He moves his hand through his thick brown hair and shuffles from side to side on the concrete bench. He sees me watching him. Suddenly, he's peppering me with questions. Are you feeling anything? Is this the start of a contraction? Is this the end of one? What about now? How do you feel now? And what about now? I find his persistent tone a little annoying, but mostly endearing. I love the energy he's putting into this early labor experience. The short spaces between his questions tell me he wants to be a part of this baby's birth, even though it's me who has to endure most of what's needed to get this baby out. If he's worried, it means he's feeling protective over the baby. I want him to feel connected to his child, even before it arrives. I've been carrying so much of this parent-child relationship so far, and I'd like him to join me. He moves his hand to my belly and holds it there, counting the seconds softly. 2 minutes since the last one, right? But the one before that was 7 minutes apart? He makes a note of the inconsistencies in his contraction app. I want to focus on the experience of being outside and ignore the rumbling cramps in my abdomen. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't feel nice. It's a low, pulling cramp and a signal that something important is happening inside me. It's the anticipation of a contraction that makes me anxious. Will the next one hurt worse than that one? Was that a contraction or a cramp? Is this really going to be doable? I exhale. Remember this moment, I tell myself. Remember the blue tones in the sky so I can tell the baby about it one day. The day you arrived. The tightening continues. My contractions are now 7 or 8 minutes apart. We were taught in prenatal classes not to worry until the contractions are less than 5 minutes apart, but I get the feeling we're close enough to active labor that I probably shouldn't be standing outside in a public area. It's time to get moving. I don't know how long these contractions will stay this distance apart. Hours? I look to my husband with his shifting eyes and quiet counting. How about that ramen lunch? I ask. I'm hungry. Warm, spicy noodles sound amazing. It's a good time to start walking because my cramping has increased. We stroll up a wide ramp to a second-floor outdoor platform that overlooks the square. Wouldn't it be funny if the baby just fell out right here? I joke. He stops short of a full laugh, sighing and asking me again how bad the cramps are. These moments are more amusing than difficult, more expansive than contracting. I need frequent breaks as we walk through City Hall. I sigh loudly, in full view of the city workers moving to and from meetings. Releasing a big, loud, feels good. A message to the baby that I'm here for this. It helps if I lean over to ease the pressure on my abdomen. I press my palms against a concrete wall and sway back and forth. Since my baby is in a breech position and its head is lodged under my rib cage, my breathing is shallow and brief. Exhales coming out as sighs and soft cries. Gordon is staring at me with fear and uncertainty. Okay, he says. I think it would be best if we don't go for lunch. It sounds like your breathing is speeding up. Maybe the ramen noodle place is too far. We should head back closer to the hospital. What do you think? No, not yet, please. I plead. They're not 5 minutes apart. This baby isn't arriving till 6 p.m., according to our new doctor, and it's not lunchtime yet. I'm feeling more and more uneasy about checking myself into the hospital. There's less air in the hospital. I want to stand in the bright sun a little longer. Is this what labor feels like? I remember a friend once told me that the reason pregnant birthers wake up so often during the night in the last few weeks of pregnancy is that nature is preparing them for sleep deprivation. Is my desire to stay outside a signal that my brain is preparing for something bad? Maybe I'm going to die today. Somewhere between City Hall and the hospital, my contractions begin to get much worse. The stretching and sweeping has done the job, and this baby is definitely stirring. I picture the baby kicking furiously, sort of like running in air, with its head stuck in a vise. The pain leans into my cervix, a strong pressure that sends a terrible ache into my lower back. It's hard to walk, and although the hospital is less than 500 meters from the square, it takes us quite a long time to trek back. Back on the labor and delivery floor, I look a nurse directly in the eyes and say, "This baby is coming." She moves fast and guides me to the delivery room, not stopping to ask any details about me or my birthing plan. Gordon stays back to complete some paperwork, and I get undressed in the delivery room. Since I'm all the way up on the 15th floor, I have a good view out my windows, looking out on the city's East End. The bright room has plenty of space to move around. It reminds me of the parts of Toronto in summer that I love the most. I climb onto a hospital bed with thick plastic handles and settle onto my back, shuffling pillows down my sides and behind my neck. With a quick knock, another nurse walks into the room. "Hello! Are you Amanda? And who is this?" she says, looking behind her. Gordon has followed her into our room looking like he ran a full-on marathon from the check-in desk. I appreciate the hustle. He stands near the door as the nurse begins to work around me. I wish he would stand a little closer to the bed. To me. I wish he was holding my hand instead of observing me from the back of this big room. I'm lonely in this bed, just baby and me. The nurse lifts my torso and shifts me forward in the bed to strap a fetal heart and contraction monitor to my belly. That's the second time this week I've been strapped in. "We need to get these good and tight so I can hear baby and watch the contractions from the nursing station. You see? That's how we know what's going on in here." I hate the tight elastic band around my very swollen belly. With this nurse's arrival, I'm officially stuck to machines, unable to move around the spacious room without disrupting the setup. This isn't the free-flowing birth I imagined. Gordon's phone rings. It's Rose, who sounds like she's thanking him for the update and asks why we don't call her back until at least 5 centimeters dilated. Dr. Schuyler shows up to check on me about an hour after the deep breathing and offers to break my water to get things moving. Things aren't moving? I look over to Gordon. He's nodding anxiously. Dr. Schuyler inserts a crochet needle-like device into my cervix and a gush of water rushes out of me. My abdomen feels like a slowly deflating balloon, except without the whispering squeal. I can't believe these doctors and nurses are all happy to have this water spill out all over the bed while I'm hooked up to electrical equipment. The sappy, warm water between my legs feels icky. This must be what it feels like to pee your pants, except instead I'm peeing my open-back hospital gown. I announce to no one in particular that I don't want any further intervention or drugs. I will do this on my own. The pain is manageable. No one says anything in response to my silly drug-free stance, so despite being strapped to the monitors, I lift myself up and move awkwardly from the bed to a nearby chair. The act of shifting from a horizontal position to a vertical one causes a much larger wave of water to exit my body. It's time to focus on getting the baby out, I tell myself. Stop obsessing about what might happen and stay present in this activity. The contractions are stronger now, but still feel manageable. I turn the chair to directly face the clock on the wall above the contraction monitor. Gordon is sitting on the edge of my amniotic fluid-soaked bed, looking down at his phone. He doesn't look my way, and he doesn't seem to be counting the seconds like he was outside. He's reading his phone and not responding to my silent glares. I look over to the clock behind him. I need to know how long these surges are lasting and how much rest time I'm getting in between them. Surges is the word we were taught in hypnobirthing class, designed to make you visualize opening the cervix instead of contracting it closed. With each surge, my body feels like it's closing in on itself. I'd like to meet the person who is able to successfully open during these tense moments. The surge seals my eyelids shut, and I wait for it to pass. This timed breathing and clock obsession lasts for a few hours, during which Gordon makes a few calls to our immediate family. His first call is to Max, who doesn't say anything about the imminent labor but does ask if we want any food. I request La Cubana, a Cuban cheese and meat sandwich shop I adore, knowing I probably won't eat it. I have no appetite. Rose arrives just as the anesthesiologist enters my room with an epidural I apparently requested during a recent contraction. Somewhere between the opening surges, I must have said I wanted it, though the last thing I remember saying is no drugs. Rose rushes over to my bed in a huff. She spins around to face Gordon. In a frustrated voice, she says, "I thought we decided you didn't want these drugs for Amanda." Gordon shrugs with ambivalence. Dr. Schuyler said this is about the breech delivery and that if we have to move quickly because the baby is stuck, it's better if Amanda is frozen from the waist down so we don't waste time in emergency. I think it's better that Amanda get through this delivery, don't you? Rose looks down at me, taking my hand in hers while adjusting the fetal heart rate monitor. You said you didn't want to be frozen during labor. Are you sure this is the best strategy for you right now? I'm sure we could try to move your labor along for a bit before you take the next step in pain management. Her voice is measured and calm, but I can hear the irritation in each word. All of my decisions are being made in isolation from one another. Do I want drugs or not? Do I want to eat something or not? It's no longer bright and airy and happy here. I'm taking the drugs, I decide, and releasing the decision-making to someone else. I have become an internalized version of myself, struggling to vocalize the worry and confusion I'm feeling while my body expands and contracts, pushing a human downward inside me. I don't love the decision to take the freezing meds, but I'm too physically exhausted to say much else. The epidural itself is painful. A nurse holds my arms tightly against my sides to stabilize me, and I scream into a pillow as the needle is inserted into my spine. When it's over, the anesthesiologist gives me an orientation to the drug self-management. Push the red button to add more drugs. You can't push it too often. Signal when you need to and you won't feel a thing. I won't push the button. I want to feel this baby for as long as possible. Besides, all I can think about is the risk of paralysis. Will this baby affect my ability to walk? What will happen to my legs? I'm no longer thinking about my baby, my husband, my family, or the medical staff. I can only think about the long-term effects of the epidural and whether this unplanned vaginal breech delivery is going to kill me. The medication slows down labor and my previously quick progression grinds to a halt. Gordon continues calling out my progress like he's calling out a baseball game on a Sunday afternoon. 4 centimeters, 5 minutes apart, mostly calm. That last one was a doozy. We were at 3 minutes apart, but she's lost her zest. We'll see what happens in the 4th inning. Hours later, Rose turns lights down in the delivery room and announces she's going to go grab some dinner. Max has just arrived with the dinner I won't eat. He hugs me and gives me a kiss on my forehead. My internal focus gives over to performance mode. I wave my hands around and proclaim with steeped sarcasm, I can't feel anything anymore. Everything is great. We don't talk about what might happen or when. Max settles into one of the lounge chairs on the other side of the room, and I notice how loud the rain has become outside. When did it start raining? Could the power go out? Is there a flash flood? The world continues outside this room, but nothing matters. Gordon looks up from his phone to tell me that my mother has arrived. I was very specific in my request about her presence. I don't want her involved in my labor, though my reasons are a bit muddled tonight. At this point in our lives, my mother is an extension of my stepfather, and I can't stand him. He brings only darkness and stress. I'm more convinced than I ever have been before. I cannot introduce this new human to that world. If she's here, he could be too. So she's not welcome. I beg Max and Gordon to find a reason to tell her she can't stay. I don't want to parade my delivery room. This is about creating a quiet experience for baby, I plead, but they look unconvinced. Gordon says, I'll tell her to go, but are you sure you don't want her to just stay in the waiting room? No, I say. She's going to tell him all about this, and he can't be a part of this day. Before I can convince anyone, my mother enters the delivery room. I tense up at the sight of her. My shoulders rise, and I avoid eye contact. Max paces the room. My mother walks directly to my bed and kisses me on the cheek. She looks worried, too. Why is she afraid? I'm fine, Mom, I say over and over again. Everything is fine. Look at me. Go home, please, Mom. This might go on all night. I need her to leave. She is not the comfort I need in this unknown situation. In fact, I'm no longer seeking comfort from anyone around me. I just want Rose, who has returned from her dinner to take control of this room, and she's the only person I want near my body. She's the only one I will permit to touch me from this point forward. A nurse shows up for a standard check and announces that my contractions, which I can no longer feel, have slowed dramatically and that more interventions are likely needed. I can't stand the idea of my mother and brother standing beside me while I push this baby out, so I shoot Gordon another desperate, pleading look. Please, please get her out of here. Gordon raises his voice a bit as he says, Amanda seems like she needs a few minutes of quiet. How about everyone go to the waiting room and leave her here with Rose? He follows my mother to the waiting area and asks her to leave. I know he